Good evening, this is Hungary Reports, kicking off Public Media M1's Foreign Language News Hour. I'm Balázs Benda, thanks for joining us. It is in Hungary's interest to see the Western world and Russia having good relations. Hungary always wins if there is cooperation between the Western world and Russia, said Prime Minister Viktor Orbán after having talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Hungarian Prime Minister listed protection of Christian communities, stopping migration and improving relations between Russia and NATO as primary fields of cooperation between the two countries.
The Russian president arrived in Budapest in the early afternoon. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Híradó, welcomed him at the airport. Vladimir Putin's convoy went straight away to the Carmelite monastery, where he met with Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. The Prime Minister emphasized, in the past 1,100 years, Hungary has lived and continues to live in the triangle of Moscow, Berlin and Istanbul. Thus, it is in our interest that the Western world and Russia have good relations. If relations are bad and there is tension between Europe's western and eastern part, in other words, between NATO members and Russia, Hungary always loses. If relations are good, Hungary wins, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said. Economic issues were also discussed at the Hungarian-Russian summit. Since the introduction of the sanctions, trade between the two countries grew for the first time last year. Vladimir Putin said, in the past nearly 2 years, trade increased by 30% between the countries, amounting up to an annual $7 billion. Hungary plays a great role in enabling us to distribute Russian oil and natural gas evenly in Western Europe. Rosatom is currently building 2 reactors in Paks, which will be able to cover for the Hungarian economic needs, Vladimir Putin said. The situation of Christian communities in the Middle East and North Africa was also a key topic at Wednesday's summit. The Russian Federation is ready to cooperate in supporting Christian communities. This is what the Russian president said, and added that he finds it unacceptable that someone be persecuted because of his or her religion. Viktor Orbán listed the protection of Christian communities to the priority areas of the Russian-Hungarian political cooperation, next to stopping migration.
Hungary does not sign the joint declaration of NATO ambassadors about Ukraine, at least for now. The Hungarian government said, quote, Hungary is not willing to sacrifice the 150,000-strong Transcarpathian Hungarian minority on the altar of geopolitics. This is the same explanation they gave after the previous vetoes, too. Viktor Orbán said Hungary always considers Hungarian national interests before anything else. The Prime Minister added he still has hopes that the new Ukrainian president is open to help resolve the problems of Transcarpathia Hungarians.
Hungary is not willing to sacrifice the Hungarian community of Transcarpathia on the altar of geopolitics, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade said. Híradó pointed out it is obvious that from the other side of the ocean, a minority of 150,000 citizens is not considered an important issue. However, for the Hungarian government, the interest of even one Hungarian citizen is enough to stand up for. We have made it clear within the NATO that it would be the minimum of ally solidarity to state something about the deprivation of rights of a minority belonging to a NATO member state in such a joint statement, and to mention the necessity of restoring these rights. Since they were not willing to include this, we vetoed the statement, the minister said. In Transcarpathia, Hungarians are exposed to legal discrimination and frequent political and physical threats. Viktor Orbán talked about this, referring to the fact that the Venice Commission is examining the language law in Ukraine, which declares Ukrainian a state language. We are not saying that the situation which had been deteriorated should be restored. Instead, we would like them to only accept the proposals of the Venice Commission and to include this in the statement, the Prime Minister said. Viktor Orbán added, if this is not included in the document, Hungary will not sign it. This would mean we give up the European rights Hungarians living in Transcarpathia are entitled to. The Prime Minister emphasized Hungary always formulates its standpoint based on Hungarian national interests.
We have entered the Eurasian era, said the governor of the Hungarian National Bank at the Eurasia Forum in Budapest. György Matolcsi highlighted that the European and the Asian continents work more and more closely together in almost every field of life.
Here we have indicated and proposed 6 areas of cooperation: geopolitics, infrastructure, economics, multilateral cooperation, finances, education and their relevant sub-areas. In these spheres, every unit, country and nation of the Eurasian continent is becoming more and more intertwined.
The growth of the Hungarian economy has reached yet another important milestone. It is the 80th consecutive month that Hungarian wages keep increasing. In August, the average salaries grew by another 10% in a year-to-year comparison. Adding in inflation, wages have an 8% higher purchasing value than a year before. Finance Minister Mihály Varga said this trend continues thanks, for example, to the GDP growth way above EU average and the previous economic measures of the Hungarian government.
In November 2016, we agreed on the rate of reducing taxes, other impositions and increasing wages. So far, we have kept this rate. During the previous years, the rate of social contribution taxes has been significantly reduced. From 27%, it has dropped to 17.5%. This is where we stand now, and we wish to maintain this tendency.
Hungary is to spend 900 million forints, about 3 million euros, on the development of ports and their surroundings along the Danube from Komárom all the way down to Visegrád. The aim is to improve tourism infrastructures, mainly to accommodate large hotel ships in the ports of the Danube Bend, not only to serve foreign visitors, but to attract more domestic tourists as well. It is important to make the area accessible by cars, trains and boats.
Nearly 300,000 tourists have arrived this year in the Danube Bend by boat. However, the largest hotel ships cannot disembark as the riverbed is not deep enough or there is no appropriate equipment for their reception. Ships currently stop in Visegrád and Esztergom, but we would like them to be able to stop in Dömös, Zebegény or Komárom as well, Gábor Spányik said. In order to achieve this, a number of harbors will be renovated until the end of next year. 5 harbors could be renewed, those in Komárom, Esztergom, Zebegény, Visegrád, and the one opposite of Dömös, Parliamentary State Secretary said. In Komárom, for example, the current jetty will be replaced by a bigger one, and the shoreline surroundings will be modernized. The outside of the station has been refurbished. They are now working on the inside. Thus, it will soon be suitable for the reception of the largest ship's guests. In Esztergom, the old harbor building was recently torn off. A park has been established on its spot with benches, a bike shed and a parking lot. According to plans, a jetty will be placed here, which is not only suitable for sightseeing boats and hydrofoils to dock, but will also serve as a venue for events. Besides these, the port opposite of Dömös will also be renewed. The riverbed at Zebegény and Visegrád will be deepened, allowing large hotel ships to dock as well. The government expects public shipping to further increase next year in Hungary. Thus, it has put aside almost 40 million euros for the development of fast shipping on the Danube and approximately 21 million euros for the modernization of shipping on Lake Balaton.
An exhibition of Vera Molnár, a painter of Hungarian origin living in France, was opened in Budapest at the Kisceli Museum. Order and Disorder, that is the title of the exhibit that gives an overall picture of the artist's entire portfolio. She has been active since the 1950s and she is still an icon in today's so-called computer art. The exhibition is open until March 15th, 2020. Shepherd's Life in the 21st Century is the title of an exhibition in Veszprém, displaying the everyday lives of probably the last representatives of an iconic era of the Hungarian past. Visitors of the Lackó Dezső Museum can see the portrait photos of Zsolt Répási and objects once used by shepherds in the region. And that's all for now, but do stay with us and watch our German, Russian and Chinese language news. Thanks for watching us. Take care. Good night.